In 1096, thousands of men and women began a journey that would reshape the medieval world. They came from across Western Europe, from France, the German states, northern Italy, and beyond. Some were nobles, some were knights, many were peasants. Their destination lay nearly 3,000 miles to the east, Jerusalem. The campaign that followed became known as the First Crusade. It lasted 4 years. It crossed continents. It left cities besieged, populations displaced, and new kingdoms established. To understand the First Crusade, we must begin in Europe at the close of the 11th century. Western Europe in 1095 was politically fragmented. Power was decentralized. Kings ruled, but authority was often limited by powerful nobles who controlled fortified territories. Castles dominated the landscape. Warfare between Christian lords was common. Knights were trained from youth in mounted combat, tournament fighting, and siege warfare. The Church sought to restrain internal violence through movements such as the Peace of God and the Truce of God. These efforts had limited success. At the same time, religious life was intensifying. Pilgrimages to holy sites, including Jerusalem, were increasingly popular. Reports of danger to Christian pilgrims traveling east circulated widely. Religious identity and military culture were beginning to intersect. To the east, the Byzantine Empire faced growing pressure. In 1071, Byzantine forces suffered a major defeat at the Battle of Manzikert against the Seljuk Turks. Large portions of Anatolia were lost. The empire's defensive frontier collapsed inward. Emperor Alexios I Komnenos sought military assistance from Western Europe. In 1095, envoys were sent requesting limited aid. The response exceeded all expectations. In November 1095, Pope Urban II addressed a gathering at Clermont in France. He called upon Christian rulers and warriors to assist their Eastern counterparts and to reclaim Jerusalem. The speech itself survives only in later accounts, but its impact is clear. The call resonated deeply. Participants took vows. Cloth crosses were sewn onto garments. Oaths were sworn publicly. This was not merely a military expedition. It was framed as a penitential journey. Those who participated were promised spiritual reward. Before the organized, noble-led armies departed, large groups of peasants and minor knights set out prematurely. This movement, often referred to as the People's Crusade, lacked structure and supply planning. Many participants never reached the Eastern Mediterranean. Some perished from hunger and exposure. Others were destroyed in Anatolia. By the time the main armies began their coordinated advance, the early enthusiasm had already met harsh realities. The principal Crusader forces were led by regional nobles. Among them were Raymond of Toulouse, Godfrey of Bouillon, Bohemond of Taranto, and others. Each led his own contingent. There was no single supreme commander. The armies traveled separately, but shared the same objective. They converged at Constantinople in 1097. Constantinople was unlike any city most crusaders had seen. Its walls were immense. Its markets were vibrant. Its political culture was sophisticated and cautious. Emperor Alexios required crusader leaders to swear oaths promising to return former Byzantine territory. Some agreed reluctantly. Tensions surfaced quickly. Despite mistrust, cooperation was achieved. The Crusaders crossed into Anatolia. The terrain of Anatolia presented unfamiliar challenges. Open plateaus replaced the forested landscapes of Western Europe. Water was scarce in places. Summer heat bore down heavily. Armored cavalry required careful supply coordination. Foraging was unreliable. Horses weakened under sustained strain. The march was slower than anticipated. Campaigning became an exercise in endurance. In May 1097, the Crusaders laid siege to Nicaea. Byzantine naval support cut off supply lines. After weeks of encirclement, the city surrendered. Control was handed to Byzantine authorities, frustrating some Crusader leaders who had expected plunder. The alliance held, but suspicion deepened. Soon after, Crusader forces encountered Seljuk troops near Dorylaeum. The battle tested the resilience of the heavy cavalry. Despite initial vulnerability, coordinated reinforcement secured victory. It demonstrated the effectiveness of disciplined mounted shock combat. But open battle would prove less common than prolonged siege warfare. The siege of Antioch began in October 1097. The city's defenses were formidable. Months passed. Food grew scarce. Desertions occurred. Morale wavered. In June 1098, the Crusaders finally entered the city after a negotiated betrayal opened a gate. Almost immediately, they themselves were besieged by a larger relief force. Starvation intensified. Religious visions were reported. Eventually, the Crusaders broke the encirclement and retained control. The cost was substantial. After Antioch, the march south resumed. Numbers were significantly reduced. Supplies remained fragile. Discipline improved under necessity. By June 1099, Jerusalem lay within reach. Jerusalem's defenses required immediate construction of siege equipment. Timber was limited. Materials were transported from surrounding areas. Within weeks, siege towers were completed. In July 1099, the Crusaders breached the walls. The city fell. Contemporary accounts describe widespread killing in the aftermath. Jerusalem was declared under Christian control. Following victory, new political entities were established. The Kingdom of Jerusalem was formed. Other territories, including the County of Edessa and the Principality of Antioch, emerged. These states required ongoing military defense. Their survival depended on continued support from Europe. The First Crusade combined traditional feudal structures with improvised coalition leadership. Heavy cavalry remained decisive in open engagement. Siege engineering proved equally critical. Logistics, supply management, and negotiation often determined success more than battlefield heroics. The campaign revealed both strengths and limitations of medieval European warfare. The First Crusade reshaped Mediterranean trade routes. Contact between Western Europe and the Eastern Mediterranean increased. Cultural exchange expanded. Religious divisions intensified. Subsequent crusades would follow, each shaped by the precedent established between 1096 and 1099. The First Crusade began as a call to arms. It became a prolonged campaign defined by distance, negotiation, siege, and survival. was not a single battle, nor a simple narrative of victory. It was a movement shaped by faith, ambition, and political complexity. Between 1096 and 1099, thousands crossed continents. Many did not return. Its legacy would echo across centuries of medieval history.